Hey, in this RTFSC, I wanted to show you how I deal with authentication for the beautifulruby.com/flex website. If you're not familiar with this website, it's a video course that I recently finished where I show you how you can build Rails applications using entirely Flex components. If you build a video course website like this, you want to kind of keep things very minimal. I don't want to have a lot of checkout flows. I don't want to have a lot of account management. I just want to get out of your way so that you can access these videos. So if I hit play, you get like a 30-second preview until you upgrade. Whenever you buy this thing, I actually don't have account set up. I just sent you to Stripe where I get your checkout. And it's really all about the email. So whenever you hit pay, you can see there's an email there, and that's the thing that you're going to be using to activate your browser so that you can access the course content. So let's have a look at what the activation flow looks like. Um, this is what it looks like. Whenever you buy the course, it will actually go through this flow for you. But if you want to access it from another browser, this is what you would see. So you put the email in there, email the link. I'm actually going to switch over to the development environment so that we can do this thing locally. And let's go ahead and just walk through the flow. So Brad at rocketship.io. All right, so this is what the email looks like. It sends a link. It says, hey, go activate it here. So you go activations show. It's going to be the action this thing comes up in. And then, of course, I don't actually want to activate at this point because I need for the user to give me a post request to actually activate the browser. So when they hit activate, post request is fired, and then they can access their courses. So this is it. That is how people log in. You can see you can deactivate there, so you could delete the session on the browser. But let's actually look at how this happens on the server side at this point. Okay, so recall that we have the activations controller. And whenever you want to create a new activation, you're actually hitting this view. So what are we doing here? We've got just a form that we're rendering. So we're saying, all right, we have an authentication challenge. That's the thing that we want to render. And then whenever the person clicks email activation link, that actually fires off the create method here. So we have the return URL if that's defined, or if that's not defined, we're going to set the root URL. And then, of course, we want to save the new form, which was this form that we have up here. And that's going to create the activation email and send it. So that's the email that we got delivered. And then, of course, we want to render the created so that we can give the person a confirmation message saying, hey, check your email. If there's a problem, like they don't provide an email, then we would render the new view again and say that's unprocessable. This is actually some of the stuff that I teach in the Flex on Rails course is how you can have views inside of your controllers. And I totally get that's not for everybody. I think this is good for small applications, and I did it for this. So I actually in the course show how you can move these into the views folder. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay. So this is the UI part of it. I think the more interesting part is the model. Like, what is this authentication thing? And I have this gem. It's actually out there right now called No Password, but this is kind of a rewrite of it just based on what I've learned about the prior version. It takes a completely different approach. So let's see what I've got going on in here at this point. All right, so we have no password, email, and then we have base. So I have active models going on here in this base class, and this is really just saying, hey, I have a class. I want it to behave like an active record object, but it's not actually an active record object. Something you'll notice is that I actually pass session into this thing quite a bit. So there's an initializer right here where I pass session in. If you think about it, that's what I'm working with, right? Whenever you're dealing with authentication, usually you're setting some kind of tokens or something in the session to establish a session so the person can log in and activate their browser. So this is the base class for that. It's not actually doing anything in there. It's just saying, hey, we want to wrap a session with this model so we can interact with it. Now I have two different models to authenticate the user. So there's this thing called authentication, and it's just saying like, hey, what's the email of the person I'm authenticating, and what is the return URL? The other model I have is this challenge, that's actually the token that I send off. I don't want to have those things in the same model for a lot of reasons. And let's see, I also have verification. I have three things. All right, so authentication is the thing that kind of handles all pieces of these, right? So we create a challenge that generates the token, and then we're going to get the token back on the other side. So that's that URL with the random characters that we pass into this thing, the provided token, and we're actually going to verify that token with this model. And again, all of this has a session being passed into it. So the challenge, this thing is just saying like, hey, we need to challenge this user. So we're going to generate this random token. That's that random string that you see. And then we need to remember a couple of things so that whenever we get um, that challenge back and run it through verification, if everything works out, then we want to get the return URL and the email because we need to eventually tell our controller, hey, this email has been verified. This is a verified email. This person had this challenge. They successfully completed the challenge. So you can assume that this person has completed, or you can assume their email is authentic, assuming that we sent them the link to that thing. All right. So, and then of course, we want to have the return URL and all this stuff we persist inside of the session. And if we look at these attributes and where we save these things, again, this is on the base model. Whenever we call save, we can see it's taking all of the attributes for these models that we created, and it's just saving those things into the session key, which is no password. Um, cool. All right. So let's minimize this thing again, and we'll open up the challenge, and we can see that here. So whenever we generate the token, we're saying, all right, we want to create this token. We're going to save it on the token attribute. That's really the important thing here. Time.current is also important because we have a TTL on this thing. We don't want to have these tokens open forever. So it needs to be like 10 minutes. And then on the verification side of things, we save this token in the session. Actually, this is an important nuance. We save the token on the session because if this person is getting emailed a link, so if this person opens a link in a different browser, that token won't be there and they can't verify that email address. So if you think about it, the browser that they're using to initiate this thing has this token stored in it. And they have to open that URL in the same browser that they use to send it so they can activate that browser. And that's what I want. I want to activate browsers, not necessarily users. And of course, the verification, you can see that it checks the token that's stored on the session against the provided token. And that's this whole challenge thing here. And we're going to verify the thing. Let's see where my secure compare. All right, so validate token matches. You can see if you try to save a verification, I need to make sure that the provided token matches the challenge token. And I do that with secure compare. That way I don't have to worry about nils and all that stuff or hidden characters. So I compare those things. And if those two things match, if the provided token, that's the thing that comes from the URL that we email the user, matches the challenge token, which is the thing stored in the session on that browser, then we can say that, hey, this thing matches. We also check for expiration. So we don't want to have tokens sitting out there forever. So we have a TTL on it. I believe it's 10 minutes. So if somebody came back and the token's like 20 minutes old, I wouldn't authenticate and then would have to go through the session or the whole process again. Once the browser is activated, though, we can see in the activations controller, let's see, update. I set the current person equal to this person. So this actually persists to a cookie that lasts forever. So at this point, whenever I successfully verify the person, it actually deletes this whole verification thing from the session. And then it's up to me. So if we look at current, or have a concern. All right, so this current thing is hanging out in the session here. So you can see here, if the user successfully is activated, then I store their activation ID in the browser, and then they're just permanently logged in for a year. Security is not a huge issue on here, but so that's why I keep the token around for a year. But that is how I handle flows in this thing. If you wanted to, you could hook this up to any other kind of authentication scheme. Maybe you have this as part of OmniAuth or as part of having like sign in with Google or something like that. So it is flexible in that way. You can deploy it alongside of this thing or alongside of other authentication schemes. But for me, I wanted to keep things simple and I just wanted to have email activations. It worked for my case to keep things minimal. And eventually I'll roll this thing into a gem. I already have a gem out there called no password, but it uses a number and I'm not too happy with that. So this is going to be more secure with the token and it's still work in progress. But I thought I'd share that with you so that you could see kind of where my head is at with this and what to expect for the next version of no password.